Hi guys, it's Trina from John's Furniture Repair and starting a new giant project in the shop today, and it is this dining room set. It's really beautiful. It's a walnut set and it's a family heirloom of one of my customers, and we're going to be doing a complete makeover on this set. So we're going for a darker color and everything needs repair and reblooming and lots of prep work. So she's got a buffet, a table with 4 legs and a pedestal with 2 legs, and then 7 chairs. Now 2 of the chairs are not original. You can kind of see that the original chairs have this beautiful little crescent design, and these 2 guys are the odd ones out. So they're just oak chairs that she uses with the set, so she needs those for extra seating. So we'll stain them up to match. We're also going to be reupholstering the seats because they're looking like they need it. They are definitely going to get some new foam because this is not comfy, and make them look all nice and cushy and nice to sit in. All these chairs are coming all the way apart. They're really loose. Joints are wobbly. That way we can deal with anything that needs some addressing. The table's in really nice shape. Actually, it's looking like it had a refinish at some point, but we're going to be changing the color up, so that's going to get a complete refinish as well. And the buffet is in really great shape as well. A little bit of the doors are sticking and doing some stuff, but we'll take care of that. The drawer down here needs some work. It's kind of not stopping where it should, so probably needs stops and maybe a drawer bottom issue. Inside, I think we're pretty good. We're just going to leave that all natural and take care of everything else. But basically just a complete strip, refinish, repair, and get it back to something that she wants it to be in her house. And they're actually building a new house, so they wanted this piece to be part of their new house, so that's kind of cool. So anyways, let's I think I'm going to start on the chairs first because they always take me the longest, and there are 7 of them. So I'm going to start digging into chairs, getting seats off and taking them apart and stripping them down. So let's get at it. Okay, so I've got the first one up on the workbench here. I'm just going to start with turning it over and taking the seat off. So it looks like just 4 screws. I can see these have all been worked on before. I'm also going to take off these bumps right here for their seats so I don't get full of stripper. I actually don't mind this style of glider. It's a lot better than some of the other ones around there. It's just a piece of rubber that you screw onto the bottom of your foot. Stays in place. It's a soft rubber, so it doesn't wreck floors. That's kind of nice. I should maybe get a few of these. I'll keep them in good shape and we can reuse them on the chairs. Okay, so now that that's off, I'm just going to number the chair seat and the chair. So this will be number 1. And then I can put the seat aside. So next up, corner blocks got to come out. So I'll label those as well as front right, back left, front left. And then we'll take all the screws out of the corner blocks. So now that I've got all the fasteners out of the chair, I'm gonna start to hit this apart with a mallet. This one's pretty tight, so I'm hoping I can get it loose because I do like to strip these when they're apart and I don't like all the glue around these joints. But if it's gonna be a major problem, because I can almost see some epoxy type glue, then I'll just have to strip this one together. But I'm gonna try to give it a few whacks and see if it does move for me. Yeah, so I'm getting some movement there, so I think I will coerce it apart. On this one, maybe not that one. Got a lot of glue dripped down from some repair. And it's definitely a very hard glue, but we'll just keep working at it. Here we go. It's a really messy glue job where there's a gap in the joint because it wasn't clamped when it was drying with the glue, and so I really did want to get that apart. Seems kind of harsh, but so I'm going to check if I need to take it apart this way. There aren't too many huge gaps. If I can get away with it staying together like this. Yeah, I think I might leave it together, the back together. And the front still has these gaps in the joints that I don't really like, so I'm gonna try to get those apart. And I'm gonna go to my rubber mat so I can bounce it off of the floor mat and get a little bit of help that way. Okay, so I've got the last two of these original chairs in clamps, and those three over there are all prepped and ready for stain. So I'm working on these two odd chairs, the oak ones, and I've got the seat off here. It's just over there. It's a different style seat as well. And these look like they're in pretty rough shape. They're really loose. I'm gonna be making some new corner blocks. Looks like this rung was replaced at some point because that is not oak, that's walnut. And I don't know if it belonged to a different set. Could have been one of the other chairs. I don't know. It's just weird that there's one walnut rung here. So this is all gonna get taken apart because it's super in need of help. This one is the same thing. They're just really dirty and loose, and the seats are gross, and looks like this one has all its original parts for the most that I can see. So let's get this guy apart. Okay, so I've got everything stripped here, and just going through the pieces. It's apparent that not everything is original. You can see here, this piece here was definitely made after one of the pieces went missing or something. You can see a lot of the really rough jagged saw marks, and just the dowels here, which are really roughly cut, and there's a ton of glue and stuff jammed to make them fit. So they're a really rough fit. So I'm gonna have to do some work to get these to fit properly again, and definitely use an epoxy. But other than that, they're really roughly sanded. You can see all of the little swirl marks, and this is on a good side. Like, you should definitely not have that on a piece. So I am gonna have to use a sander to start with the sanding, but like every piece that I do with a power sander, I'm gonna be sanding it with a piece of sandpaper by hand afterwards to straighten out any little swirlies that the machine leaves. So these pieces here are gonna need that pretty heavily. That's the H brace on the bottom. And then there's a couple of really bad repairs. I'm not sure what's going on here with this piece. The dowels were pretty shallow, and then they were drilled out at some point and at an angle. So it doesn't look like, you know, there's new holes drilled in the end piece. And this looks like an original piece. It's a quarter sawn piece of oak, and I just think that these were drilled out again at a really bad angle. So I can kind of see half of the original dowel that's still stuck in the bottom there. And so they've just drilled them at a really weird angle. So I'm gonna have to get that out and fill these here, and with new dowels. I'm gonna pop those in and then just do a fill on the top here, and let that harden, and then I can, you know, do a touch up on that area after. Okay, so I've got all of these stained with the brown mahogany gouty stain. This is just a chair that I'm also working on. It's not part of the set. So here's how the oak ones look. Similar color, just a little bit different undertone. So yeah, everything's fixed, re-glued, lots of new corner blocks, lots of repairs to broken legs and joints. And so these will dry overnight, and then we'll get them in the booth. Hey guys, it's been a busy couple weeks in the shop and I haven't taken any videos. So I just want to do a big update in here to show you what we've had going on, and update you on that dining room set that we're working on. So let me show you what we've been doing. So first of all, I've got all of the chairs under lacquer, ready to go. Just need the seats reupholstered, and I will be done with these guys. So these ones got a full refinish, reglue, restoration, and they've got the beautiful brown mahogany stain from Goudy and 3 coats of lacquer. So they are all done and ready to go, looking great, just sitting there waiting for me. In the meantime, I kind of got busy with a couple other things. These couple of tables got a full refinish. They were just in a little bit of rough shape, but just a refinish back to the originals. So those cute little tables are a nice set to go home now. And along with those, my customer also had this piece. So we stripped all the little detail and fixed all the damage and gave it a nice refinish as well. So that's ready to go. We refinished this chair here for a customer who we did 12 other chairs for. So that one's going home today. And we also did this whole set. So the table got a full refinish on this guy. And these guys, we just refinished the backs and did touch-ups on the rest and did a full lacquer over the whole thing. And we also did the arms on the captain's chair. So just kind of a freshen up for this set. It was generally in good shape and didn't need a re-glue on the chairs or anything, just a little bit grimy and needing a cleanup. So that's actually going out in an hour or so. So that's ready to go. And then the table here for the set that we're working on, I'll put this light on here, is got 4 coats of lacquer, and I'm gonna sand it down and do a 5th, but it's looking really beautiful. Some of the most beautiful walnut that I've ever seen is on this set. So really, really nice color coming through that brown mahogany stain. And we've got all the legs and everything refinished as well. So just a really, really pretty table. So right now, what I'm working on is the last piece for this set. It's the buffet. So I've got the top getting stripped here. The rest needs to be stripped. Did some work on building a new drawer slide down here that was missing and putting in some stops, and then also re-gluing the slides down here. The drawer itself needed some work on the guides and the slides as well. And we've got a few pieces stripped already here on the workbench. Some pretty detail on the doors. So really just beautiful walnut that I'm working with here. So it's always nice to work with that. So I'm gonna keep working on stripping this guy down and sanding it and getting it ready for the booth so we can get everything back to my customer eventually. Now the other couple of things that we've got going on that aren't finished are these tables. They've got leather tops. We ordered new leather tops. The old ones are back there. They had holes in them, burn marks and stuff. So they are in the cleanup stage right now. They were stripped and they need some work to get cleaned up still. Okay guys, now that the top has been stripped, I just wanted to show you the shape it's in. It's got a ton of stains here that I'm going to try to get out with oxalic. They're kind of all over the place and quite a bit of scratches and dents and nicks. So it's just in really bad shape. The first thing I'm going to do is steam it just with some water and an iron. And then I'm going to give it a pretty good sanding. Might do 2 rounds of the steaming, we'll see how it turns out. And then after the steaming, I'll do the oxalic if these are still here after the sanding. Sometimes that takes most of it out. So we'll start there. You really want these like cross grain scratches to lift. Big dents or holes are a lot easier to hide than a cross grain scratch, so that's what I really want to come up. The table is also in really bad shape, so we did this as well to the table. Okay, so that's got it. The process also brings up a lot of finish that we didn't get off with the stripping process. So I'll just scrape the surface to get off those nibs, and then we're going to hit it with the 120 on the sander. I'm going to grab a card scraper. Okay, so that's got everything sanded down to 120. Unfortunately, we did not get lucky, and these major stains are still here and kind of speckled everywhere. So let's mix up some oxalic acid. Okay, so I just got some hot tap water here and my crystals. So I'm just going to open this up and get a scoop. I'm not very measured with my oxalic crystals. Just kind of put a scoop into this jar. It seems to work. But you do want to use hot water just so you can dissolve the crystals nicely. So about that much. Just going to pop it in there. Give it a stir. So it's all dissolved. And then I'm just going to soak down the entire top. You don't want to do a spot when you're doing a big surface like this, just if you have one stain, because it will lighten the wood around the spot as well. So you're best off just doing the whole surface. And this doesn't always work, but usually if it's a mineral stain, it'll come up. And that looks like it's disappearing right before my eyes. that needs to dry, but I'll just show you guys a closer up view of what's going on. So we had that really dark stain right there, and it's really fading out quite nicely. There were a couple other spots. These ones here, I'm waiting to kind of see what they're gonna do. But this has to completely dry and crystallize before I'll see the full effect of the acid on the spots. And that was the one I was most concerned about, and I think that's gonna be pretty much gone. So everything's kind of evening out to a nice tone. So we'll have to sand this again after we rinse it off with water. You have to scrub it off pretty good because there's acid crystals on it afterwards. So we'll scrub that off with water, let it dry again for a day, and then sand it with 180. So in the meantime, we'll get to stripping the rest of the cabinet. Okay, so it's all dried and crystallized now. So I'm gonna scrub it off with just water, and I've got a pail of water here and a scrubby, and I'll just wipe it off. I'll have to rinse it. Usually it's nice to turn these on their side and rinse them off, but it's a fairly big piece, so I'm just gonna scrub and do lots of rinses with my rag. So I'll just get some water in here. And start scrubbing those crystals off. I'm really happy with how the stains came out. Pretty much all of them did. I'm not really seeing any of them here, so that was definitely worth the effort, which is always nice. All right, so all of the pieces are stained, so they'll need to dry, and it's a humidity index of over 70% right now, so we won't be spraying this week, but this guy can sit and dry. Turned out pretty nice. I did a stain on the inside as well, so I'll just give that a clear coat inside. And that's good. So we'll cart it over to the booth and get going with clear coats when the weather clears. Okay, so while everything is drying, we can get to upholstering these So I've got a slab of 2-inch high density foam, and I'm gonna want to kind of go over the edge of this. So I'm gonna turn these upside down and just line it up with the edge. Each of these has their own special shape because they're handmade. So I don't want to use the same one to cut all of my seats. And some of the boards are like this. So these are the 2 oak chairs. And then all of these new boards were made for those walnut chairs. And I'm just going to trace out where each chair. I know 5 of these fit here, so I'll just start with the one. I don't usually do the front edge because it's straight. And I'm just going to trace it so that it's a little bit bigger, so I can get some edge coverage for one. And then I've numbered all the chair seats, so I'm just going to put the number of which piece of foam goes with which chair on each piece. So I'll do the next one. And line it right up with that edge. That's number 6. So I'll mark all these out and then I'll show you how we cut them. Just get a brand new knife. Pop that guy in. So I'm going to put it out the whole length of the, or width of the foam. It's really easy when you've got a nice sharp knife. I'm just going to keep my knife as straight as I can down. I'm going to actually lengthen it a little bit so I get a whole. And get a nice crisp edge. And this piece same thing. No power tools needed. And these are the chunks I give people when they forget their furniture blankets when they come pick up their stuff. So I keep them in a bag, and then they eventually get used up. I don't do upholstery a whole bunch. I usually leave it up to the actual upholsterers, but when I'm doing a whole dining room suite like this and the chair seats are in need of reupholstering, I don't mind. Okay, so this is Dacron, and I use this for softening the edges and shaping the seat before the fabric goes on. So I'll just take the last seat we did here, and this is the number 1 foam, and I'm going to position this so it's a little bit heavy on all the sides. I'm going to go get my spray glue. And I'm just going to peel this off first. Stay there. And I'll just be very easy on the glue. I'm going to position that there. And I mean, these don't shift around a whole lot. That's just to kind of keep it there while I'm working on it. And I don't want it walking on a customer. So then I'll take this. I'm going to be stretching this pretty heavily, so I don't need a lot of room and I don't want to waste again. So I'm just going to go pretty close to the edge and maybe leave about 1.5 inches all the way around. Just enough so I can stretch it around. So I want to pull it tight, but not too tight because this stuff isn't structural. So that'll do. And I'll just cut it here at an angle. Just like my foam. And I'll trim this after. So what I'm gonna do now is get my staple gun. I'm just going to tack all 4 edges first. So I'll start here, right in the center, and here. I'm kind of using my hand just to bring it on over so there's not one little tight spot, so the tension's kind of even. I'm not a professional upholsterer by any means, so this is just what's worked for me. And good, so now we've got our piece tacked on there and the foam is attached. So now I'll just work a few more. I'm not going to staple a lot with the Dacron. Just want to get the general shape down before we start working with the fabric. So when I'm looking, I want my edge to be even with my first tension. And I'm kind of squishing that foam so that it's up around the plywood edge. It's kind of coming down there. Now let's go right to the end. And I leave, space in between. That's not a big deal because we're going to be putting the fabric over and doing a lot more staples there. So I'm not going to freak out on staples right now. The opposite edge. Just using my hand to kind of push the foam down and around to make that nice shape. And then work the other side. So you look up here, you've got a nice even shape that pulls those edges down and kind of rounds off the foam and does the work before you start fooling around with patterns and getting your fabric on there. So for the edges, I just pull them really tightly up against themselves. Tack it, and that's it. I'm not going to make a corner or anything. This stuff kind of shapes to the edge. If you've got sharp corners on your plywood, you might want to round them off before you start doing all this, but this one wasn't too bad here. Some of them I should. But I'll kind of play that as I go. So I'm just going to pull all these corners in. And Dacron just makes the shape of the piece a lot easier. Adds a little bit of cushioning as well, and just kind of softens any little dents or whatever. So now that that's all there, we'll take our scissors. And I always keep a good pair of scissors around for doing stuff like this, ones that I don't open a can with or something, and just trim it as close to those staples as I can. I don't want a lot of bulk with this stuff, so this stuff here, you know, it's just gonna get smushed down. Like, it does compress pretty good, but you can even kind of shave it off from the top that way, just so you're not adding extra bulk to the corners. If this was a chair that had to fit into a frame or something, that would be a little bit more important. These just sit on top, so that's not too bad. So there you go. There's your beginning stage before you get your fabric going. So I've got 6 more of these guys to do like this, and then we'll get to putting the fabric on. So let me get at that first. Okay, so now that I've got everything covered in Dacron, I've got the fabric here laid out, and when you're working with a fabric that's not got a pattern, this isn't a big deal, but when you have something like this where there's, you know, kind of an obvious center to a lot of it, sometimes you want to try to center it on if it's possible. This piece, and we do have a lot of the fabric, so I'm thinking that I'm going to try that. I'll have to lay it out and make sure I have enough to do this. But these sections here, they've got like a bouquet of flowers kind of sectioned everywhere, so I'd have to probably skip a whole section, and I'd only be able to get 2 out of this whole piece. But I think she's got enough fabric here to center with, so I think I'm going to try to do that, because this section right here seems to be where I have the pattern. It'd be nice if all the chairs had that bouquet right on the seat. So I'm thinking something like that probably look pretty good. Okay, so I've got all the pieces cut out, and been working through a few of them. So I'll just show you how we get everything centered and how we do our corners. I'm just going to trim off a little bit of this excess, because we can't use the middle of the pattern because we want to center this piece here. So we're wasting a little bit more when we center patterns, but it'll be nice having the same emblem on every chair. So what I'm doing is just, I've got a few points of reference. This piece here is supposed to be on the corner. This flower is supposed to kind of be in this upper corner. This stem here is supposed to be coming off the corner there. So I'm just kind of centering everything based on that. There's supposed to be, you know, space here. These stems are supposed to be in the middle-ish. I'm not trying to get it perfect because it is kind of an erratic pattern. But once I've kind of got it positioned to where I think it's supposed to be, okay, so I've got the piece centered on here where I want. So what I'm going to do is just kind of hold it in place here and flip it over, keeping the tension where my hands were. And I'm just going to give it a tack. Use my hand again as a smooth over. And I'll do it to all 4 sides first. Good, and then I'll just recheck it with one that I'm doing here. I want my pattern to be the same. This is the armchair, so it's a little bit bigger. So it'll be a little different, but in general it looks the same. You know, we've got the flower up here in the corner. These pieces are coming down the center. We've got a piece coming in this side, so that looks good. So what I'm gonna do is work with the back first because it's a little short the way I had to cut it on the pattern. And when I'm bringing my hand around the side, I'm actually going to be pulling it towards the center because I don't want to be left with a ton of material on my corners. So I'm going to actually bring my hand over and kind of flex the material back to the center. So I'm just going to start tacking it that way. And you can see there's, you know, a little bit of bunched material here. So we'll just kind of work that material smooth. I don't have a big edge to work with here. So that's good. Same thing I'll do on the other side. So that tack here is where our center point is, and we're just going to pull everything into that center. So again, just going to move my hand in to the center like that, start tacking. And I can just kind of spread out those wrinkles a little bit. So there, that's your first edge there. So then I'm going to go to the opposite side and do the same thing. And this is the front. Okay, so that's the front edge there. So you want to put a staple along every inch of this piece. You don't want to have a space. These woven fabrics, you need to pull every fiber the same or you're going to see it on your piece. It's going to definitely be noticeable that you don't have a staple somewhere. So I'm just going to work the two sides the same way and I'll show you how to do the corner. Okay. So I've got one corner done here. This is on another chair seat that I've just got ready to go. And I'm not going for a fold, I'm going for a clean corner. And trying to get as flat and smooth as I can so I can sit right on the chair seat like that. So I'll show you how I do it. So once we've pulled that fabric into the center, there's less to deal with here in the corner in the first place. That's your first tip for getting a good corner like this. And then when I pull it down, it takes some working. But you're just going to kind of tightly bring it around the corner so that your folds are underneath, not on the chair seat itself. So I'm going to tack my front edge first. Then I'm going to try to smooth out this lump on the side here a little bit more until I like it. And then I'm going to bring it around. And I'm going, because I don't want a lump here because it's got to sit on the seat, I'm going to kind of fan it out. Looks like I need to just tack this a little bit. One more right here. Keep everything tight right up to that corner. And then you're just going to have this tab that pulls in kind of a fashion like that. And there you are. So you've got that corner. Bit of a point that I could have probably taken off, but it looks good. So we've got no fold, just a clean corner to sit on the chairs. And I'll show you guys what it's looking like on the chairs. Got 3 done here. Here's the old walnut chair. The seat is fairly plush, So it's a big poofy seat. It's what the customer wanted. So it looks a little bit more in line with this chair, because it's a little bit more of a beefy chair, this oak chair. They look a little big on these ones, but they're gonna be a good comfortable seat, and the height with the table is actually perfect. So they're really supportive, and they're easy to get in and out of, and they're nice to sit in. So I'm gonna keep working. We've got 2 almost done on the workbench that I showed you guys we were working on. So we should be done these seats today, and then we're just waiting for the weather to clear up to finish spraying the table and the buffet. So I'll keep working with these guys. Okay, I just wanted to show you how I finish it off too. So I got all the corners there on this one. So I'm going to trim off, not like super close to the staples, just leaving about a 1/2 inch-ish. Emphasis on the ish. Okay, and then once that is all off, this is not a necessary step, but I feel like it makes it look a lot more professional and just finished off and done, because this is all, you know, raw edge, and you see your dacron and everything. So I just take some dust cover and cut out, with leaving about 1 inch around the inside of the chair. It's a funny shape. And what I do is fold this edge under, and I tuck all those raw ends of the material underneath, and just give it a few tacks. Definitely not as many as you would the fabric, because we're not pulling anything tight here or trying to keep it. We're just trying to clean up this bottom edge. Good, and then that looks pretty good. If you've got any sag, you can just pop a staple right in the middle, so maybe cats don't want to get at it too. So that finishes off nicely, and then we can just pop it on our chair. Take off all the fuzzies. And kind of center it nicely on the chair. These are all not original seats, so I'm just trying to play with the positioning to get the best that I can. And when you screw these seats down, you want to suck it right close to that frame so you don't have this gap here you're seeing. And sometimes that can be a little tough. That's why I want to keep it mostly try to keep it mostly flat when you're working with it. Just recheck. Just as much as it will. Compress everything down there. Just give it a look to make sure it's sitting on there nicely, and that looks really good. So the last thing we're doing for these chairs, and I do this on a lot of pieces that I do, is adding these neoprene gliders, and they just are friendly to all floor types, and they don't have an adhesive, which, you know, once it falls off, it gets floor all sticky. So just got to go kind of off center of the old hole here. Overspray pieces on the bottom there. Gives you a chance to look if you got anything that you missed. Good. So that chair is done. Wipe off all the fuzz and the dust. It's a nice fabric for these pieces. So I got 3 left to do, and then we're done with these guys. All right, so it is finished and headed out this morning. So let's go over everything and I'll give you a closer look. So we finished the buffet last and got all the hardware back on and cleaned everything. I did a hand buffed finish on the tops, so they're really nicely smooth. Same thing with the table. Did a hand buffed finish on the table as well, so it's got a nice soft sheen and it's just so smooth. Feels so luxurious. So we did the repairs on the drawer. That was the major thing on this one. So we've got an all new drawer slide in there, so that's working really nicely now, stopping where it should. Other than that, the repairs were pretty minimal to this thing. Just a nice refinish in the brown mahogany. And the table, we did some repairs to the legs, but mostly it was just a straight refinish in the brown mahogany. And then all the chairs got rebuilt, refinished, and the seats were recovered with a 2-inch foam. So very plush, very luxurious. This set's gonna be really comfortable to be at for those long, lovely dinners with lots of wine. So thanks for joining me on this one, guys. I'm excited to give it back to the customer and get her reaction. I think she'll really like it. I think it turned out really good. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you like these videos, check out some other stuff we have, and we'll always be adding more. So take care.